Hello everyone and welcome to today's instalment of Beyond the Mask, where today we're going to be taking a closer look at Michael Myers' thoughts, movements and reasonings in Halloween 1978. More specifically, we're going to analyse through the novelisations of the movie why exactly Michael Myers directly decided to stalk and murder Annie Brackett. This may not be easy to answer, as some of you may believe. The answer isn't simple, but rather complex in terms of Michael's behaviour that night. The novelisation tells us Michael's thoughts at various points during the events of 1978 that helps flesh out the character more. So sit back and relax as I talk you through the real reason Michael Myers targeted Annie Brackett and what the event actually meant for him going forward. Following Michael Myers' escape from Smith's Grove in 1978, he was driven by a basic desire that orchestrated his overall movements that night. That desire was to return home. Eventually he did, but he became distracted following the arrival of Laurie Strode. From this point on, Michael proceeds to stalk Laurie quite ferociously as she manoeuvres through her everyday life in Haddonfield. Following the first 40 minutes of the movie, however, Michael appears to change course, and rather than continue his hunt for Laurie, he instead decides to shift his focus to her friend, Annie Brackett. So why did Michael decide that Annie served as a better target than Laurie? Was there a point in which he decided to switch direction? And what was he feeling during the famous car scene in the movie when Annie took her final breaths at his hands? The answer to these questions only adds to the fragile lack of control Michael had over his own thoughts. Laurie was targeted by Michael because he noticed a striking resemblance to his sister Judith Myers, who he murdered 15 years prior to the events of 1978. Michael harboured some uncontrollable draw to Laurie. He felt the similarities to Judith radiate from her naturally. When Laurie was accompanied by her friends, he noted that Annie Brackett was nothing like his sister. As Annie and Laurie drove towards the Doyle and Wallace homes, they were unaware that a dark shape followed behind. The blonde girl got out, the one who had come up to the door of his home this morning, the one who reminded him so much of Judith. He watched her go up to the White House and ring the doorbell, while her friend turned into the driveway of the large house across the street and pulled into a garage. Shortly afterwards, Annie entered the home. Unaware, Michael stalked behind. He stood watching the girl talk on the telephone. She was not like Judith at all, but that was alright. They didn't have to look like Judith. They didn't even have to be girls. Michael reflected about Judith and the thoughts he had during that time. He returned to the moment he heard that dark voice in his head, continuing telling him to murder his sister. And now, the voice was talking to him again, and it was almost the same way, except that he was a grown-up himself now, and he was big and strong as his daddy, and this time nobody would be able to take him away and send him someplace. As the story progresses, Michael's observation of Annie Brackett grew. Not only that, his desire to kill and feed the lust he had inside also continued to grow. He was motivated by the thrill. It gave him pleasure, sexual pleasure. It's interesting to note that throughout the novelisations and during most of Michael's kills, he doesn't experience any kind of sexual arousal. He did, however, with Annie Brackett. It's apparent in the novel that Michael was somewhat sexually attracted to Annie, yet he didn't entirely understand what was happening to him. Her legs weren't as long as Judith's. Her buttocks were larger and filled the pants to strain in, and she had a sensual bulge just over the crotch that made him breathe heavily with desire. his hand opened and closed, involuntary, on the handle of his knife. The frequent desire to kill, but also the mention of his arousal every time he saw her, was a factor that wasn't present during any other kills in the novelisation. His lust for Annie wasn't connected to Judith. That was his reason for targeting Laurie. Annie was personal. Michael was somewhat infatuated with Annie. This also explains why out of most of the deaths that followed in the franchise, he took his time to murder her. He enjoyed watching her, stalking her, until she decided to go and meet her boyfriend, Paul. Before she could turn it, he sat up in the back seat, massive and powerful, hideous in his rubber mask. She had time only to glimpse him in the mirror, the beat of her heart cascading into a runaway frenzy. She screamed, but the closed car doors and windows muffled the sound. A second later, his immensely strong forearm was under her chin, crushing her windpipe. She beat and scratched at his arm, but it was futile. Her lungs tried desperately to suck air into her body. In one last effort to free herself, she pressed the horn on the rim of the steering wheel. It blurred loudly in the night for a long moment. Then, the knife plunged into her belly. She could actually hear her mind contemplating the length and coldness of the long blade as it penetrated, but she didn't really feel any pain. The terror and resignation had made her impervious to it. She knew she was dead, and in her last moment, she was aware of a blend of surprise and regret that the event could be so peaceful and undramatic. She wished she could have said a proper goodbye to her parents. She wished she'd understood her father's warning to be careful. She wondered if she'd be reborn and get a second chance to be careful. The light faded, and the last thing she heard was the car horn. Following her death, Michael felt peace. The voice went silent, and to him, he wasn't sure what to do from this point. He hadn't had a desire to kill since his last time at Smith's Grove. Annie was an exception. Michael inspected Annie's body. His desire to kill muted, until suddenly he heard the front door close. Bob and Linda had arrived at the Wallace house. His feelings surrounding Bob and Linda were completely different to Judith, Laurie and Annie, and that is a video for another day. And that's it for this video. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, death has come to your little town, Sheriff.